Greetings. Today we will begin discussing Chapter 16, Psychosocial Development in Adulthood. Middle adulthood is between the age of 35 and 65. In Erik Erikson's theory, the crisis is generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is the ability to be useful to ourselves and society. Emphasis is on being helpful to others. The act of being productive is rewarding, regardless of the recognition or the rewards. If someone in this stage is stagnant, it is considered to be bored, self-indulgent, unable to contribute to society's welfare, and they cannot solve their own problems. As you enter middle adulthood, you begin to feel stress more strongly. The more responsibilities you have, the more stress you have. Risk factors that increase stress are poverty, chronic illness, mental illness, drug abuse, exposure to violence, divorce, and teenage motherhood. Characteristics of resilient people who manage stress well are having a good family environment, a support network, and personality traits. Middle age is a time when spouses reappraise their marriage. It's a time to examine current relationships and consideration of change in the future. As children become less dependent upon their parents, the tension that exists between spouses becomes more evident. Most couples who divorce are likely to separate within the first 5 years of marriage. However, the divorce rates are higher for second or subsequent marriages. For African Americans, and for all those who are less educated and who have lower income ability. Midlife is a time when a divorce is less likely to occur. Most divorces take place during the first 5 years of marriage, and the number tapers off rapidly after that. It is found that African American mothers are better able to cope with divorce than white mothers. African American mothers had higher levels of personal mastery, economic well-being, and formal support following divorce. Nevertheless, the proportion of divorced persons in midlife is relatively high, because many who divorce earlier have never remarried. Research suggesting that men and women over 40 experience significantly more turmoil and unhappiness than do younger people at the same age of divorce. The reasons are complex: a length of time of marriage, economic and property linkages, social relationships, and different standards of living. Usually, it's divorced women at midlife who especially experience economic hardship. They have a significant decline in income, which increases rates of poverty. There's a dramatic lifestyle change, and many cannot improve their economic situation unless they remarry. Empty nest syndrome is a syndrome that couples experience when major life goals of raising children have been accomplished and children are no longer dependent or living in the home. Common reasons for a happy marriage is that there is friendship in the marriage, love and emotional affection, there's sexual compatibility, and similar interest. Also similar backgrounds, which give a similar perspective in life. how well each spouse can balance the roles they take on in the family, and the ability to listen and compromise while maintaining respect for one another. Next, we'll look at being single. Approximately 1 in 20 in middle age have never been married. If not married by middle age, it is highly unlikely that they will marry. Education is the key determinant. If they have a very low education, 5 years or less, or handicap, or a mental illness, this will determine the unlikelihood for marriage. And sometimes if they have a very high education, which 13% of women with 17 years of education have never been married because they may not want to give up a home that they've already bought, or they haven't found someone who they feel they can be compatible with in education and income standards. Many times the reasons for being single are that the individual has chosen education, career, over love. Men feel threatened by women with more education than they have, and by the time a woman has completed her schooling, there is a much smaller pool of available men. During middle adulthood, relationships with parents tend to improve. The middle adult has more of a perspective on grandchildren's strengths and bonds with the children that they've had. As elderly parents grow older, they sometimes become dependent on the middle-aged children. Caregivers experience issues with emotional strain, time constraints, their own health, and it tends to be that female caregivers get more depressed than male caregivers. Around age 30, people tend to choose a select few relationships that they derive support, self-definition, and these relationships offer stability. Next, we will take a look at personality in Levinson's theory on male behavior. The settling down phase usually extends from age 33 to 40. At this time, most men have decided what occupation they choose to pursue. During this period, most men attempt to achieve two tasks. They establish a niche in society and advance up the ladder of the occupational group. During this phase, the male attempts to overcome his dependency on his mentor and slowly is able to become his own man. This is a step in the direction of greater individualization, in that the man thinks less and less as others want him to, and more as his own views dictate. He is now ready to go into the third phase of his adulthood, the midlife transition. The midlife transition, which usually lasts for 5 years, generally extends from age 40 to 45, and it involves major developmental tasks. The man begins to feel the effects of aging, realizes that he has made mistakes, tries to develop better relationships with women, and is not stressed by being alone. Gender revolution has us sitting at a cultural crossroads. Generation X is the first generation to be raised by a significant number of women who worked outside the home. An individual trait can be thought of as an individual's tendency to have consistent patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Although there is debate within the field of personality on how many traits make up an individual's personality, Recent studies have settled on 5 traits: neuroticism, extroversion, openness to experience, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. These 5 traits are referred to as the 5-factor model of personality. Each of these 5 traits is characterized by different tendencies, beliefs, and attitudes, and can be broken down further into a number of subtraits or characteristics. Please take a few moments to review the remainder of this PowerPoint, taking a closer look at each of the traits.